Hello! Hello, one and all. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'll give it a couple seconds here to catch up with the stream while everyone gets logged in here. Welcome to another trivia, the spectacular Halloween edition. It's wonderful to have you all here. Thank you for the costume comment. Yes, I forgot mine at home, so I'm having to make do with what we had here at the shop, which is a red cape, this witch hat, and this very sexy black wig. So I'm here for your trivia entertainment. While everyone is getting logged in here, I'll go over some quick housekeeping. Hopefully you got an email with links to Google Forms to submit your answers. If you did not, they are in the chat up above. As we go through the rounds, I cannot see you, so please don't cheat. But also, if you need something repeated, I'm always happy to do that at the end of the round. So you can put any questions you need repeated in the chat, and I will get to those at the end of the round. The way scoring will work, Jamie Southern is back with us tonight at home. So she will be grading after each round. So after each round, after I've given time to repeat some questions, I will give a countdown from 10. And then that will, Jamie will then at that point shut off the ability to submit answers. Then we'll go over the correct answers for each round, and then I'll make a book recommendation while Jamie scores from home. So hello, welcome. I don't remember if I said my name. My name is Caleb Masters, and it's very nice to have you here for this edition of Halloween Trivia. So without further ado, let me switch over to the presentation here. And I'm still getting used to using Crowdcast, so please bear with me. All right. Okay. Hopefully you all can see it. Tonight's categories for the quiz are, we have 5 rounds with 10 repeating categories. Tonight's categories are Name That Cover. So these are famous and semi-famous covers with the text removed. I just need you to tell me the title and author. If you know it, you can get a point for each. Bestsellers, so questions about best-selling books. Almost all of the books tonight are somehow tangentially spooky, whether they are or not, so keep that in mind. Literary witches, so questions about witches from literature. The Boy Who Lived, so questions about the Harry Potter universe. I'm ready for my close-up, so these are author photos. I'll give you some clues, and I just need you to tell me the author's name. Gothic Vibes, so questions about Gothic literature, both new and old. That's Child's Play, so questions about spooky kids lit. In the Woods, so questions about books that take place in the woods. The Book Was Better, so these are questions about novels and movie adaptations. And finally, we have Emoji book titles. Emoji book titles, so those are the categories for tonight's quiz. Hopefully you have your Google form pulled up for round 1, and we will jump straight into it with round 1, question 1. So name that cover. So here we have 3 current Penguin editions of this 1818 novel. Just looking for the title, if you know it, and the author will get you a point as well. And for those of you who haven't played before, if you can't remember the title or you can't remember the author, just put down 1, you get a point for each if I don't mention it in the question. So can you remember the title and author of this 1818 novel? Number 2, bestsellers. The first installment in this author's All Souls trilogy, this 2011 historical fantasy novel follows the story of Diana Bishop, a professor at Yale University who, after accidentally finding an elusive, long-thought-lost manuscript, embraces the magic in her blood and engages in a forbidden romance with the charming vampire Matthew Claremont. In 2018, a TV series of the same name debuted on British television, with it landing in the USA in 2019. So looking for the title of the first book in the All Souls trilogy, following the adventures of Diana Bishop, and the author will get you a point as well. So the first installment in the All Souls trilogy, published in 2011. This is one of Beth's, if you know Beth Bust here at the store, one of her favorite books. Number 3, Literary Witches. Maybe. There we go. She may be the ruler of the hilariously named Winky County, but don't be fooled. This Wicked Witch of the West from this 1900 novel is no laughing matter. Her backstory was later expanded in the 1995 novel by Maguire, Wicked, and its subsequent smash Broadway musical. So, the ruler of Winky County is from what 1900 novel? Looking for the title, and the author will get you another point as well. (1900). Can you remember the title and author? Number 4, The Boy Who Lived. He who must not be named needs to be named. Can you remember Voldemort's birth name? So he who must not be named needs to be named. Can you remember Voldemort's birth name? So looking for first and last name here for a point. If you can remember the middle name, good for you, but no extra points, just looking for first and last. Voldemort's birth name. And number 5, I'm ready for my close-up. Who are these women? So for 1 point, I'm looking for the family name. Very famous group of sisters that were all authors in the 1800s. So looking for the family name, and if you can remember all 3 of their first names, you will get a point as well. So 2 points up for grab here, looking for the last name or family name, and then another point if you can remember all 3 first names. These sister authors in the late 1800s. Number 6, Gothic Vibes. This 1886 Gothic novella follows a London legal practitioner, Gabriel John Utterston, who investigates strange occurrences surrounding his old friend Henry and his split personality. The story's titular characters have become cultural shorthand for how someone can be outwardly good and inwardly evil. So looking for the title of this 1886 Gothic novella. If you can remember the author, that will get you a point as well. We follow Gabriel Utterson as he's investigating the split personality of his friend Henry. All right, number 7, That's Child's Play. First published in 2001, this picture book by Julia Donaldson has become a modern Halloween classic, telling the story of a kind witch who continues to invite more creatures on her midnight ride. So looking for the title of this children's picture book from 2001, I've given you the author and illustrator Juliet Donaldson, so just looking for the title of the picture book, if you know it. There's also a super cute animated short that's been made from it as well. So the title of this 2001 picture book, about a kind witch who continues to invite more creatures on her midnight ride. Number 8, In the Woods. This European fairy tale about a young girl and a large canine can be traced back to the 10th century to several folk tales, including one from Italy called The False Grandmother. The best-known version was written by Charles Perrault and was published in 1697. Just looking for the common name for this European fairy tale. Traced back to several origins, including one in Italy called The False Grandmother. So no author here, just looking for the title of the fairy tale. And number 9, the book was better. This 1847 Gothic horror novel has been adapted numerous times, with its central character appearing in over 200 films. Most famously in F.W. Murnau's 1922 Nosferatu, Universal's 1931 film starring Bela Lugosi, and Francis Ford Coppola's 1992 adaptation starring Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and Keanu Reeves with a very terrible English accent. Looking for the 1847 Gothic horror novel that has spawned so many films, and the author will get you a point as well. It is a very bad English accent. It's worth watching the movie just to see Keanu Reeves go, "I have seen terrible things." It's really bad. All right. And the last question of round 1, number 10, emoji book titles. So here we have a couple emojis that invoke this 1986 horror novel. So horror novel from 1986. Looking for the title if you know it. And the author will get you a point as well. Okay, and that is the end of round 1. So if you need a question repeated, go ahead and put it in the chat there, and I'm happy to go back and repeat a question. Hopefully we're starting off pretty easy here. Question 2, all right. Go back. So this is the first installment in the author's All Souls trilogy. This is a 2011 historical fantasy novel about Diana Bishop and her lost bloodline and her romance with a charming vampire, Matthew Claremont. Recently, last year, debuted on television in the US. So looking for the title of the book and the author as well. And number 3, all right. And yes, I'll try to get back to the author photo. All right, so The Wicked Witch of the West is no laughing matter and is from this 1900 novel. So looking for the title of the novel, and the author will get you a point as well. So, what book is The Wicked Witch of the West from? And here are these people ready to drop their cool mixtape. And that looks like all of the questions that need to be repeated. So please get your answers submitted so Jamie can start grading. I'm going to give us a countdown from 10. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so please get your answers in. Question 10, just in under the wire. All right. So 1986 horror novel using these two emojis, kind of invoke the popular motifs of the book. Looking for the title and the author as well. All right, so I'm going to do this one more time. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, get your answers in. Okay, so while Jamie is getting those answers graded, I am going to make a very quick book recommendation, and then we're going to go over round 1 answers. Let's see if I can figure out how to unshare my screen here. Aha! Okay, I'm big again. Tonight's first recommendation is The Good People by Hannah Kent. So this is a wonderful novel set in like pre-famine rural Ireland. And it's very kind of spooky, and there's a changeling and a child and lots of weird pagan rituals going on. But it's a lot about kind of being scared of having small children and not knowing how to be a good parent, which I can't personally relate to, but I can relate to the feeling, I suppose. But it's super, super good if you like kind of mossy moors and pagan Britannia. There's a lot to love in The Good People by Hannah Kent. That is my first spooky recommendation. All right, let's go back to the quiz here. And we're going to go over round 1 answers. So name that cover. Those are all current Penguin editions of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Number 2, bestsellers. It was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. The Literary Witch was from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by Frank L. Baum. I need to take my hat off for a little bit. Voldemort's birth name was Tom Marvolo Riddle. That was a picture of the Bronte sisters, and their first names are Emily, Charlotte, and Anne. The short story we're looking for was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. The picture book was Room on the Broom. Room on the Broom. The fairy tale was Little Red Riding Hood. Dracula was the book we were looking for by Bram Stoker. And those emojis were for It by Stephen King. It by Stephen King. So hopefully you guys all did okay and are basking in the glory of my horrible black wig. We're going to move on to round 2. Maybe. If my computer will go. Ha, there we go. Round 2. So number 1 of round 2, name that cover. So here we have the first edition cover of this book, and then we have the current Penguin Classics edition. So this is a short novel from 1962, and it was the author's final work before their death. It's published in 1962. A very famous author of kind of spooky and strange fiction, and this was her final work before she passed away. So looking for the title if you know it, and the author will get you a point as well. All right, number 2, bestsellers. In this 1995 best-selling novel, the Owen sisters always knew they were different. After the death of their parents, they've been raised by their aunts, who happen to be witches. The book was adapted into a 1998 film of the same name, starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. The author has followed up with 2 prequels, 2017, The Rules of Magic, and 2020, Magic Lessons. So looking for the title, the original title of this 1995 novel, which is also the title of the film, and the author will get you a point as well. (1995) novel. Can you remember the title and author? Okay, number 3, literary witches. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble. The Weird Sisters, or 3 witches from this 1606 Scottish play, have become some of the most famous in all literature. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. So, what work are the Weird Sisters, or the 3 witches, from? Looking for the title of the work, and the author will get you a point as well. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Looking for the title of the 1606 work. Number 4, The Boy Who Lived. Some witches and wizards have the rare ability to be able to speak with snakes. Can you remember what snake language is called? Remember, we're talking about the Harry Potter universe here. So what is snake language called? Can you remember? The title of my first book recommendation. Yes, it was The Good People by Hannah Kent. The Good People. Number 5, I'm ready for my close-up. Who is this woman? She was born in 1939. She is a novelist and poet, currently 80 years young. Written a lot of acclaimed novels of the dystopian variety and of the non-dystopian variety, and lots of poetry and essays as well. Just looking for her name. Born in 1939. Number 6, Gothic Vibes. Published in 1847 under the pen name Currer Bell, this Gothic novel has become a touchstone of the genre. The story follows the coming of age of the eponymous heroine and her eventual love for the brooding master of Thornfield Hall, Mr. Rochester. Published in 1847 under the pen name Currer Bell, this Gothic novel has become a touchstone of the genre. The story follows the coming of age of the eponymous heroine and her eventual love for the brooding master of Thornfield Hall, Mr. Rochester. So looking for the title of the novel, and the author will get you a point as well. And normally I don't care about first names, but in this case, I need the first name as well as the last name. And it looks like Jamie is updating the scores from the first round in the chat there. All right, number 7, That's Child's Play. This 2002 children's dark fantasy novel tells the story of a young girl with, oh my goodness, I did not do a good job proofreading this. It's story of a young girl who is transported into the other world where her parents have been replaced by button-eyed lookalikes. In 2009, it was adapted into a stop-motion animated film of the same name. So, 2002 children's dark fantasy novel. Looking for the title, which is also the title of the film, and the author will get you a point as well. It tells the story of a young girl who is transported into an other world where her parents have been replaced by button-eyed lookalikes. It is really okay that you did not catch my proofreading mistake, Jamie. It is all right. So title and author. And the picture is from the title character in the animated film. And number 8 of round 2, In the Woods. Now we go to Germany for another fairy tale collected and published by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. A brother and sister are abandoned in the woods and stumble upon a deliciously edible house and an old woman who is not as friendly as she seems. So just looking for the title of this fairy tale that takes place in the woods. A brother and sister are abandoned and stumble upon a deliciously edible house and an old woman who is not as friendly as she seems. So it was collected by the Brothers Grimm. Just looking for the title of the tale. Number 9, the book was better. With a 1940 Alfred Hitchcock film and a recently released 2020 Netflix film starring Lily James and Armie Hammer, this 1938 Gothic novel is no stranger to adaptation. It concerns an unnamed woman who impetuously marries a wealthy widower, only to discover that he and his household are haunted by the memory of his late first wife, the title character of the novel. So famously adapted by Alfred Hitchcock in 1940, and then just recently premiered on Netflix, starring Lily James and Armie Hammer. Looking for the title of this 1938 Gothic novel, which is also the title of the films, and the author will get you a point as well. And the last question of round 2, number 10, emoji book titles. So can you tell me the name of this 2014 novel? The author will get you a point as well. So it was published in 2014, and it was adapted into a film in 2018. So, 2014 novel, adapted into a film in 2018. Title will get you a point, and the author will get you a point. And that is the end of round 2. So if you need anything repeated, go ahead and just put it in the chat, and I will go back and repeat it. I hope you all are doing well out there in virtual land. Question 2, you got it. So 1995 novel, the Owen sisters are raised by their aunts who happen to be witches. It was adapted into a pretty popular 1998 film of the same name starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. The author has followed up with 2 prequels, The Rules of Magic and Magic Lessons. Any other requests for repeats? No? Well, all right then. I'm going to start our countdown then. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, hopefully you got your answers into Jamie so she can start grading. To buy her some time, it is time for another book recommendation. Let's close. I'm huge. Okay. Book number 2. This just came out. It's called Tiny Nightmares. And it is a collection of almost 50 spooky short stories. And they're all under 1,500 words. And it's just whiffs of horror, beautiful whiffs of horror. This is one of my favorite little spooky books to read. It's a great one to slowly work your way through. It kind of runs the gamut from real life dread to actual supernatural things to kind of weird cosmic horror stuff. Tiny Nightmares. They also had an earlier book that they did called Tiny Crimes, which is murder mystery stories that are also under 1,500 words, but it's basically 50 great authors that are writing today and a tiny story from each of them. So Tiny Nightmares, highly recommend. All right, let us go back over round 2 answers. Okay. So round 2 answers. Number 1, name that cover. That was the first edition and the current cover of Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Great book from a great woman. We've Always Lived in the Castle, Shirley Jackson. The bestseller we were looking for was Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. The play was Macbeth by William Shakespeare, where the weird sisters are from. Snake language is Parseltongue. If you wrote Parcel Mouth, that's fine. Parseltongue or Parcel Mouth. That was a picture of Margaret Atwood, the great Margaret Atwood. Speaking of which, we are hosting Margaret Atwood virtually on November 16th. So if you have not bought a ticket, which is just a copy of her new book of poetry, please do so after the quiz. You can do so online or you can stop by the store. We'd be glad to help you. We're super, super excited about it. Check it out. All right. The Gothic novel we were looking for was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. The children's novel we were looking for was Coraline by Neil Gaiman. The fairy tale was Hansel and Gretel. Rebecca, in the movie adaptations, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And the emoji we were looking for was Bird Box by Josh Mallerman. Question, is the short story collection only adult or YA2? I would say older teens, probably mostly just adult. It's not super gross, but if your teen reads pretty high, they'd be fine. All right, so while Jamie grades, we are going to move on to round 3. So get your Google Forms ready. Round 3, question 1, number 1, name that cover. So here we have the first edition cover of this 1991 novel, and then the current paperback cover. Published in 1991. It was adapted into a film in 2000, starring Christian Bale. Looking for the title of the work, and the author will get you a point as well. So 1991 novel. We have 2 covers here. Malicious locks. Okay. Number 2, bestsellers. This best-selling 2016 dark fantasy horror novel by Matthew Ruff explores the conjunction between the cosmic horror fiction of a certain author and the racism in the United States during the era of Jim Crow laws, as experienced by Black science fiction fan Atticus Turner and his family. The book has been adapted into a critically acclaimed HBO series of the same name, which debuted in August of 2020. So I've given you the author here, Matthew Ruff. Just looking for the name of his novel, which is also the name of this, I think the first season just finished, new HBO show. So explores the conjunction between the cosmic horror of a certain author and the racism in the United States during the era of Jim Crow laws, as experienced by Atticus Turner and his family. Number 3, literary witches. Her Turkish delight is well overrated. Jadis, the White Witch, has been giving young children the creeps since this fantasy novel was published in 1950. Tilda Swinton's turn as the character in a 2005 adaptation of the book is far and away the best part of that film. So what 1950 novel is Jadis, the White Witch from? Get a point for the title and another point for the author. It looks like Jamie is updating the round 2 scores there. Still have 3 teams tied for first. Goodness. So looking for the title and author of this 1950 novel that features Jadis, the White Witch. Number 4, The Boy Who Lived. In the latter half of the series, Voldemort is never seen without his faithful companion Snake, a giant constrictor. But can you remember the name of Lord Voldemort's pet, Snake? Voldemort's got a snake. He's sick on people. Can you remember the snake's name? We'll be kind to spelling too, if you're pretty close. It resembles the correct answer. Don't worry. Number 5, I'm ready for my close-up. Who is this? This is an older picture of this author. She was born in 1941, currently 79 years old. She's kind of known for 2 things, novels about vampires and novels about Jesus. They don't overlap as far as I know, but those are kind of the 2 things she's most well known for. So born in 1941, currently 79 years old, known for novels about vampires and novels about Jesus. And if there's a crossover, I would like to know about it. Just looking for her name. Number 6, Gothic Vibes. True, nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am, but will you say that I am mad? Thus begins this American short story from 1843 by a master of the form. In the story, an unnamed narrator endeavors to convince the reader of their sanity while simultaneously describing a murder they have committed. So I've given you the opening line here of this 1843 short story. Just looking for the title of the story if you know it, and the author will get you a point as well. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am, but will you say that I am mad? I'm being told in the chat that apparently there's a movie musical called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. So all of my dreams have come true. All right, moving on to number 7, That's Child's Play. Better known for Captain Underpants and Dogman these days, The Halloweener, first published in 1995, is an early picture book by this modern titan of children's literature. So I've given you the cover of this 1995 picture book, Halloweener, and a couple other of the author's works, Captain Underpants and Dogman. Just looking for the author and illustrator's name. We had the pleasure of hosting him 2 years ago at Festival, and still probably one of the nicest and most generous people I've ever met. And I've met at least 6 people. So who wrote The Halloweener, Captain Underpants, and Dogman? All right, number 8, In the Woods. Better known for her novels, The Woman in Cabin 10, The Death of Mrs. Westaway, and The Turn of the Key, this author's 2015 thriller debut is about a woman who attends a bachelorette party of a childhood friend she hasn't heard from in years. Taking place in an isolated glass house in the forest, the party takes a turn for the worst. By the end of the weekend, someone is dead and everyone is a suspect. So I've given you kind of a plot summary of this 2015 novel and a couple other of the author's works, The Woman in Cabin 10, The Death of Mrs. Westaway, and The Turn of the Key. There's a point if you can tell me the novel that I'm describing, and a point for the author's name. All right, number 9, The Book Was Better. This 1820 classic American short story follows the superstitious schoolmaster Ichabod Crane as he navigates the strange going-ons in this titular village in New York. Disney produced an animated adaptation in 1949, and Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci starred in a Tim Burton film version in 1999. So looking for the title of this 1820 American short story about Ichabod Crane, and the author will get you a point as well. This wig is so itchy. And the last question of this round, number 10, emoji book titles. So here we have emojis representing a 1959 Gothic horror novel that was also a National Book Award finalist. So from 1959, Keen Observers. This author has already come up on the quiz. Looking for the title of this 1959 Gothic horror novel. And the author will get you a point as well. And that is round 3. So if you need something repeated, just let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to go back and do that. Number 9 and 10. All right, so let's just do 10 and then we'll do 9. So 1959 Gothic horror novel. It was a National Book Award finalist that year. And this author has already come up on tonight's quiz. And then number 9, 1820 American short story about Ichabod Crane and the strange goings on in this titular village in New York. Made into an animated Disney film, as well as a Tim Burton film. Number 8 and number 1. Okay, very quickly. Number 8. So looking for the title of this 2015 thriller about a woman who attends a bachelorette party in the forest that goes poorly. And this author has also written The Woman in Cabin 10, The Death of Mrs. Westaway, and The Turn of the Key. And number 7 and number 1. Okay. So the Halloweener, Captain Underpants, and Dogman are written by what children's author? Just looking for the author's name. So if there's a small child in your vicinity, ask them and they will know the answer. And number 1, very quickly. So we have 2 covers of this 1991 novel. So the first edition cover and the current paperback cover. And it was adapted into a film in 2000 starring Christian Bale. And I think that's all I said about that one. Okay. So looks like that's all the repeats that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a countdown from 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Please get your answers in to Jamie. All right. While Jamie is grading, I'm going to recommend another book. One of my favorite authors and one of my favorite books. We have Sarah Waters' The Little Stranger. So this is kind of a Gothic novel in the truest sense of the word. An old house, forbidden emotions. There's a ghost, but is there? It's just super well written, very atmospheric. Creepy, but not too scary. If horror is not your thing at all, there's still a lot to enjoy here. Yeah, just really, really good. Just also read anything by Sarah Waters, and you will then come to me and say, thank you, Caleb. I read something by Sarah Waters. Book number 3. All right, let us go back and go over the answers for round 3. Okay, so round 3 answers. So number 1, name that cover. Those were 2 covers of American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. The bestseller we're looking for was Lovecraft Country, which is also the name of the new HBO series, Lovecraft Country. The Witch was from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Voldemort's snake is Nagini. That was a picture of Anne Rice, author of Interview with the Vampire. The Gothic story we're looking for was The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. The children's author was Dave Pilkey. And the Ruth Ware novel I was looking for was In a Dark, Dark Wood, which is her first thriller. The short story was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. If you just wrote Sleepy Hollow, that is okay, by Washington Irving. And the emojis are representing The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. There she is again, good old Shirley. So hopefully you guys are doing okay. Hasn't gotten too difficult yet. Adam says, if I had to be a person with that wig, who would I be? I don't know. I feel like my name is like Richard, and I like sell you weird cheeses. All right, round 4. Question 1, number 1, name that cover. So if you've talked to, I don't know, half of the staff here at Bookmarks this year, this is one of our favorite reads. It's published in June of 2020. Just looking for the title of the book for a point, and the author will get you a point as well. Published in June of 2020. Delightfully spooky book, and a staff favorite this year. Title will get you a point, and the author as well. It was also a New York Times bestseller for a couple weeks. Yes, when I launch my weird cheese club, I'll let you all know. Number 2, bestsellers. A is for Amy, Who Fell Down the Stairs. The Ghastly Crumb Teenies, published in 1968, is one of the best-known works by this illustrator and author, and has been called a sarcastic rebellion against a view of childhood that is sunny, idyllic, and instructive. So A is for Amy, Who Fell Down the Stairs. That is the beginning of the Ghastly Crumb Teenies by this author and illustrator. So I'll give you the title, just looking for the person. And it looks like Jamie is updating the round 3 scores there. We have 2 teams tied for first. Interesting. Give me the author and illustrator, number 2 here. We're going to move on to number 3. This witch of ancient literature and mythology takes center stage in this 2018 novel. Reframing many elements of Homer's Odyssey, the novel tells the witch's story from her birth, a daughter of Helios, to her banishment by Zeus and her encounter with Odysseus. This is very good. So looking for the title of this 2018 novel, which is also the name of the witch we are describing here, and the author will get you a point as well. So it reframes the events of the Odyssey and tells the witch's story from her birth, a daughter of Helios, to her banishment by Zeus and her encounter with Odysseus. It's very good. So, title for a point and author for a point. Number 4, The Boy Who Lived. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Hermione forms SPEW. Can you remember what the acronym stands for? So those of you who have only ever watched the movies will be at a disadvantage here. But in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Hermione forms SPEW. Can you remember what the acronym stands for? And if you get pretty close, we will give it to you. I'll let Jamie decide what pretty close means, but if you get pretty close. So Hermione forms SPEW. What does the acronym stand for? And number 5, I'm ready for my close-up. Who is this woman? She was born in 1916, passed away in 1965 at the age of 48 from a heart condition. And keen viewers should note, she has come up on this quiz already. So born in 1916, passed away in 1965 at age 48 from complications with heart condition. Just looking for her name. All right, number 6, Gothic Vibes. Published 1 year before the author's death at age 30 from tuberculosis. This 1847 novel is peak Gothic. Windswept moors, brooding characters, mental distress, and uncontrollable forbidden urges to the max. The novel has inspired numerous adaptations, including film, radio, and television dramatizations, a musical, a ballet, operas, and a UK #1 hit song. So just looking for the title of this 1847 novel, and the author will get you a point as well. My third book recommendation, yes. So it is called The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. Very evocative of a classic Victorian Gothic novel. A big old house, a spooky ghost, but maybe there's not a ghost. Maybe just everyone is mentally deranged. But just really, really well written, great characters, and anything by Sarah Waters is good. That I haven't read everything, but everything I've read so far. But back to this 1847 novel, title and author will get you a point. Number 7, that's Child's Play. This picture book, published in 1971 by John Stone and starring the lovable Grover, is the best-selling Sesame Street book of all time and has been cited as a modern classic of children's literature. The concept of the book was to encourage children to read a book from start to finish. So I've given you the author and illustrator John Stone, just looking for the title of this Sesame Street picture book starring Grover. Can you remember the title? This was one of my faves when I was a young lad. Number 8, In the Woods. Now to Slavic folklore. This being appears as a ferocious-looking old woman and traditionally lives in a hut standing on chicken legs deep in the woods. She may help or hinder those who that encounter her and is a maternal figure to all forest wildlife. So pictured here we have her house, which is on chicken legs, but can you remember her name from Slavic folklore? She appears as an old woman and lives in a hut standing on chicken legs deep in the woods. She may help you or hinder you. She is a maternal figure to all forest wildlife. Just looking for her name. And number 9, The Book Was Better. This 1991 Japanese horror novel by Koji Suzuki was first adapted into a Japanese film of the same name in 1998 before receiving the American remake treatment in 2002 with a film starring Naomi Watts. Watts portrays a journalist who investigates a cursed videotape that seemingly kills the viewer 7 days after watching it. So giving you the author, I just need the title of the novel or film. English title is fine. It's pretty similar to the Japanese title. Just looking for the title of the book/film. About a journalist who investigates a cursed videotape that seemingly kills the viewer 7 days after watching it. And number 10, emoji book titles. So here we have 3 emojis representing this 1842 short story. So short story from 1842. Can you puzzle it out? Give me the title and the author as well. So 1842 short story from an American author. And that is round 4. Repeat, 6 and 7. Got it. So So, published 1 year before the author's death at age 30 in 1847, this novel is peak Gothic, windswept moors, brooding characters, mental distress, and uncontrollable forbidden urges. The novel has been adapted into many films, radio and television dramas, a musical, a ballet, operas, and a UK #1 hit song. Just looking for the title of the novel, and the author will get you a point as well. So 6, 7, 8, 10. So 7. So we have a Sesame Street picture book here by John Stone, starring Grover. Just looking for the title of the book. The concept of the book was to encourage children to read a book from start to finish. And number 8. So this is a figure from Slavic folklore. An old woman who lives in a hut on chicken legs in the woods. She may help you or not. Just looking for her name. And number 10 is a 1842 American short story represented by these emojis. The title will get you a point, and the author will get you a point as well. And back to 6. Okay, we'll do 6 one more time. So, classic Gothic novel from 1847. Windswept moors, brooding characters, mental distress, and uncontrollable urges. Been adapted into many things, many films, and also famously a #1 UK hit song. And it looks like that is all the calls for repeats. So I'm going to start our countdown. Still have time to throw something in there if you need it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, hopefully you got your answers into Jamie. She's going to start grading. In the meantime, I will recommend one more book. Here I am. So it's a fun one, a weird one. It's called Where the Wild Ladies Are by Akko Masuda. It is like, the premise of the book is she takes traditional Japanese like ghost stories. You don't have to be familiar with the original stories. It's fine. In a lot of cultures around the world, but especially in Japan, a lot of these ghosts are like evil females because women are scary. And she kind of remixes these stories and kind of gives back these ghosts some of their willpower, and they're scary in different ways. It's fierce, it's feminist, it's very fresh. It made me want to go read the original stories and kind of compare and contrast. But yeah, Where the Wild Ladies Are, a great time. If you like Japanese stuff, check it out. And back to the presentation. All right, so round 4 answers. That was the cover of Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Great, great book. Edward Gorey was the author and illustrator we were looking for. Circe was the Literary Witch by Madeline Miller. Another shout out for our Atwood event on the 16th of November, because Margaret Atwood will be in conversation with Madeline Miller. So get hyped, everybody. All right, number 4, The Boy Who Lived, the Society for the Promotion of Elvish Welfare was what SPEW stands for. That was a picture of Shirley Jackson. So good, she made it on the quiz 3 times. The Gothic novel we were looking for was Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. The Sesame Street picture book is called The Monster at the End of This Book. The whole premise is Grover keeps trying to prevent you from turning pages because there's a monster at the end of the book. Please, no, it's scary. But you get to the end and it turns out the monster was Grover. The folklore figure we're looking for was Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga from Slavic folklore. The Ring or Ringu was the Japanese horror novel / film. And the short story was The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe. So we're getting hard here. Headed into the final battle. Round 5. Get your Google Forms ready. And here we go. Number 1, name this cover. So this was a novel published in September of 2019. It's a kind of a sci-fi, but also fantasy, but also kind of a horror novel, all blended into one in a very delightful way from a New Zealand author. So just looking for the title of the book, if you know it, and the author will get you a point as well. It's one of our best-selling sci-fi fantasy books of last year. So published in September of 2019 from a New Zealand author. Just looking for the title for a point and the author for a point. Number 2, bestsellers. Published in February 2018, nearly 2 years after the author Michelle McNamara's death, this book is a modern true crime classic. The book follows McNamara's obsession with the case of the Golden State serial killer from the 1970s and the ways the relentless pursuit of the truth affected her life. 2 months after the book's publication, the Golden State Killer was finally apprehended and arrested, largely due to the renewed interest in information provided by McNamara's research. So I've given you the author here, just looking for the name of this best-selling true crime book from / memoir from 2018. And looks like Jamie is updating the scores there. We still have a dead heat for first place. Goodness. Can you remember the title of this true crime book by Michelle McNamara about the Golden State Killer and her obsession with it? And shortly after the book's publication, the Golden State Killer, after being at large for decades, was arrested, largely due to McNamara's research and interest generated by the book. Number 3, literary witches. Rooted in Welsh mythology, this powerful and mysterious sorceress from the Isle of Avalon has become an essential part of the Arthurian legend. A pupil of Merlin, healer of Avalon, seducer of knights of the Round Table, exposer of Guinevere and Lancelot's affair, and an alternate ally and adversary to Arthur. The witch is a woman who acts for herself with a complex and shifting series of motivations. Looking for the sorceress from Arthurian legend. There are a couple options for her name. They're all pretty similar, so we will get you. If you know the answer, you'll be fine. And Jamie will be forgiving. Can you remember the name of this sorceress from Arthurian legend from the Isle of Avalon? Pupil of Merlin, seducer of knights of the Round Table, exposer of Guinevere and Lancelot's affair, and adversary and ally to King Arthur. And Rudy Circle K, Jamie has some notes for you there in the comments. It looks like he might have used the wrong answer sheet. So if you want to send her your answer, she will make sure they get scored correctly. All right, number 4, The Boy Who Lived. Spoiler alert, In the final battle for Hogwarts, which of the Weasley twins is killed in a fight? So which of the Weasley twins perishes in the final battle for Hogwarts? So you have two options. 50-50 chance. Which Weasley twin perishes in the final battle for Hogwarts? All right, number 5, I'm ready for my close-up. Who is this man? He is a Blackfeet Native American horror sci-fi author, born in 1972. He's 48 years old. And this year, to much acclaim, published the novel The Only Good Indians. So this year, to much acclaim, published kind of a horror novel, The Only Good Indians. Can you remember the name of this Blackfeet Native American horror sci-fi author? Born in 1972. Ooh, I spoiled Harry Potter for someone. That doesn't happen very often anymore. I'm very sorry, young child out there in the world. Maybe that doesn't happen. Who knows? Maybe I made all of it up. Can you remember the name of this author? Published this year, The Only Good Indians is the title of his book. Number 6, Gothic Vibes. Combining elements of ghost, vampire, and haunted house stories, this acclaimed 2009 novel from the author of Gingerbread, Boy Snowbird, and What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours was a Shirley Jackson Award finalist. The novel follows a twin named Miranda and her relationship with a sentient, xenophobic house she inhabits. So I've given you 3 of the author's other works. Gingerbread, Boy Snowbird, and What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours. But can you remember the name of this 2009 novel from that author? That was a Shirley Jackson Award finalist. Never mind, Shirley Jackson, 4 times. The novel follows a twin named Miranda and her relationship with a sentient, xenophobic house she inhabits. Number 7, that's Child's Play. Wait, hold up. So we're looking for the name of this fantasy author. In 2018, she published City of Ghosts. Sorry, this question is worded very confusingly. She's best known for her novels Vicious and the Shades of Magic series. But in 2018, she published City of Ghosts, a work of children's horror literature. We follow Cassidy Holmes' daughter to inept ghost hunters as they investigate the ultra-haunted city of Edinburgh, Scotland. So I've given you the title, City of Ghosts. Just looking for the name of the author, who has also written Vicious and the Shades of Magic series, along with many other books. Just looking for the author's name for a point. Jamie, you are not the worst. It's what happens when you ask people who read very quickly to proofread things, is they read them very quickly and they just fix the mistakes in their heads. Which is why there's always some mistakes left, because I don't catch them either. All right, so she wrote Vicious, City of Ghosts, and Shades of Magic. Can you remember her name? And number 8, In the Woods. This 2018 young adult fantasy novel and its 2020 sequel, The Night Country. We follow 17-year-old Alice and her grandmother, the reclusive author of a cult classic book of pitch dark fairy tales, dies alone on her estate. Then Alice's mother is stolen away by a figure who claims to come from the hinterland, the cruel supernatural world where her grandmother's stories are set. And Alice has no choice but to try to unravel the mystery. So 2018 young adult fantasy novel. I've given you the title of the sequel, The Night Country. We follow 17-year-old Alice. His grandmother has just passed away, and her mother goes missing. Can you remember the title? And the author will get you a point as well. Alice's mother is stolen away by a figure who claims to come from the hinterland, the cruel supernatural world where all of her grandmother's stories are set, and Alice must unravel the mystery. Best-selling young adult fantasy novel from 2018. Number 9, The Book Was Better. Kathy Bates won an Oscar for her turn in this 1990 film, portraying an obsessive fan who holds an author captive and forces him to write a story. It was based on this 1987 psychological horror novel of the same name. So looking for the title of the book/film and the author as well. So Kathy Bates won an Oscar for her performance in the film based on this 1987 novel about an obsessive fan who holds an author captive and forces him to write a story. And the final question of the quiz, number 10, emoji book titles. Can you give me the title of this 1895 collection of stories? It was a classic of weird fiction. It was also heavily featured in the first season of HBO's True Detective. Just looking for the title of the work, and the author, if you know it, will get you a point as well. So 1895 collection of stories, which has become a classic of weird fiction. Okay, that is the end of the round. Repeat 7 and 8 will do. So looking for the author of City of Ghosts, which is a work of children's horror. She's also written Vicious and the popular Shades of Magic series. So I'm giving you 3 titles here, just looking for the author's name if you can remember it. And number 8, and then another one for emojis. So the title of this 2018 YA fantasy novel, the sequel's title was The Night Country. We follow Alice, who investigates her mother's disappearance after her grandmother passes away. And then emojis with clues. So I said this is an 1895 collection of stories, which has become a classic of weird fiction. And if you had happened to have seen the first season of HBO's True Detective, it was heavily featured in that first season. And number 6. Okay. So looking for the title and author of this 2009 novel. The author has written many other books. 3 of them are Gingerbread, Boy Snowbird, and What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours. And the novel follows a twin named Miranda and her relationship with a sentient xenophobic house she inhabits. And number 2. I wonder who's playing as bookmarks. Oh, hopefully it's someone who works here. Number 2. So looking for the title of this true crime book, published by Michelle McNamara, all about the Golden State Killer, who did his murders in the 1970s in California, and McNamara's obsession with the case. So just looking for the title of the book, if you can remember it. All right. Looks like that might be it for repeats. I know round 5 is hard. You're all doing great. All right, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hopefully you got your answers into Jamie. She will get started grading here. And while she is grading, I'll give you my last book recommendation. Then we'll go over the final answers. And then I have a few announcements at the end just about future events coming down the pipe at Bookmarks. But first, a recommendation. The last one of the night. This is one of my favorite books of the year, along with Jamie loved it as well. P. Djeli Clark's Ring Shout. This is a novella set in like the Jim Crow South, all about a group of African Americans who are fighting against the Klan. But the Klan, there's like a supernatural element. So basically, if you're a terrible white person and you're in the Klan, after a while, you turn into a Ku Klux, which is like a monstrous, otherworldly, cosmic horror version of the Klan. It's so smart. It's a really thin book, but it packs so much into it. So many themes, so many great characters, so much action, but it never feels overstuffed or messy or anything. It's just a really, really brilliant work of short storytelling. And a really great look into kind of the difference between anger and hate. I think those two get confused a lot. I was always raised to never get angry, but have learned in my later years that anger can be a good thing, but hate never is. So Anger and Hate and the Wonderful World of Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark. Check it out. Okay, we're going to go over round 5 answers here. And I'm sorry again to the child I spoiled the ending of Harry Potter. Okay, round 5. Question 1, name that cover. Maybe. Oops. So that was the cover of Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Gideon the Ninth. A super fun, bone, skeleton-filled sci-fi fantasy romp. If you have not read it, it's a great time. The true crime book we were looking for was I'll Be Gone in the Dark, was the name of the book by Michelle McNamara. The sorceress from Arthurian legend is Morgan Le Fay. If you wrote Morgaine or Morgana, those are also acceptable answers. Morgan Le Fay is probably the most common one. Fred. Fred is the twin who passes away. Or does he? Yes, it's Fred. Sorry. That was a picture of Stephen Graham Jones, the Blackfeet Native American author who wrote The Only Good Indians. The book we were looking for in the Gothic category was White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. The author in Child's Play was Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab. You just had Schwab, that is fine. The YA book we were looking for was The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. The Hazelwood. The book was Misery by Stephen King. And finally, the emoji book title was The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers. The King in Yellow. And that is the end of the quiz. So we'll be doing this again next month. It'll be our final quiz of the year. We traditionally take December off just so I can have a break, and the holidays are crazy for everybody. So please join us on November 30th for the last quiz of 2020. Yeah, it's been a weird year, but I'm glad you guys have all hung in there with me and have done this virtually. It's a lot of fun. Looks like Ooh, goodness. We have 2 teams tied for first with perfect scores. All right. Next quiz will be 4 times as hard. No, I'm just kidding. The Halloween quiz is always pretty difficult, so I tried to make it a little easier. Some quick announcements. So mark November 30th, the last quiz of 2020, in your calendars. Also, we have a few more events I want to tell you about. On November 5th, Thursday, we have Vivian Howard. If you might know her for her previous cookbook, Deep Run Roots, we're hosting her again virtually for her latest cookbook. It's going to be a great time. You don't need to buy the book. You can just it's a kind of a pay-what-you-can event. You can buy the cookbook if you want. We'd love it, but mark that date down if you're into cooking. Then, like I mentioned twice before, on Monday, November 16th, we're hosting Margaret Atwood and Madeline Miller virtually. It's going to be a great conversation, so please stay tuned for that. And finally, if you love to read romance, please come to our holidays happy hour on November 13th at 4 p.m. With Christina Lauren, Sarah McCoy, Renee Ade, I think. I think those are the 3 authors. I feel bad. If I left someone out, I'm really sorry. But yeah, those are just a few of the events we have coming up in November. November is going to be a busy month for us, so please come to as many things as you want to. And we hope to see you in store or through an online order soon. Thank you all for playing. And yes, have a wonderful night. Jamie will continue to update scores there in the side. Just have a great Halloween. Dress up as something cool. And tell me about it later. All right. Good night, everybody.